Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadi Tamastu Mavi Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And we will attempt to share the screen. Share. March 29th. Okay. It's the day it is in Asia, March 29th. We just celebrated Yoga Swami's Mahasamadhi this morning, which is March 28th here, short puja. Jai Yoga Swami. Special blessings from him today. Okay, so let's see what happens here. Yoga Sutras, no surprise. Finishing up chapter 1 review here. A few more verses on SamaPatti. So we're not asking questions about them because they're rather technical. But this is a nice image. When mental activities have dwindled, the mind, like a flawless crystal, reflects the object of meditation, be it the perceiver, the act of perception, or the perceived. This is SamaPatti. That SamaPatti, in which the distinctions of name, essence, and knowledge are commingled, is Savitarka. When memory is completely purified, intrinsic identity is seemingly absent, and the object alone shines forth, this is Nirvitarka. So that's when you're really involved in the object of the SamaPatti. You forget all about yourself. You're not aware of the name of what you're looking at. You're just looking at it and studying it out. In the same way, subtle object meditation with and without reflection is explained. And the subtlety of things culminates in the unmanifest. These indeed are the samadhis with seed, meaning an object, seed, bija, nirbija, with seed, having an object. Mastery in nirvichara brings clarity of the inner self. In that state, mystical insight is truth-bearing, having a different focus than scripture and inference. It apprehends the distinct essence of things, meaning it's intuitive. The samskaras produced by that obstruct other samskaras. So this is really important, worth explaining. The language is a bit obscure. So the mind, before you start to practice meditation, has lots of impressions in the subconscious. The basic impressions are called samskaras, as we know. When the samskaras combine, samskaras of a similar vibration, they create vasanas, which are harder to ferret out. But at the samskara level, which is not as deep as vasanas, the samskaras generate a lot of thoughts about the external world, because that's what we put into the mind, thoughts about the external world, and therefore the mind is tending to think about the external world. It makes it really hard to control the thoughts. So previously, the sutras said, every effort you make to restrain the thinking creates a new samskara, a samskara of restraint. Nirodhana, a samskara of restraint. So that makes the externalizing not happen as much. This is a second type of samskara. It reduces the externalizing tendency of the mind, and it's produced by insights, sub-superconscious insights. Whenever we have a sub-superconscious insight, that creates a different kind of samskara, which helps the externalizing ones lessen even further. When even this is restrained, the entire mind is restrained, and the seedless samadhi ensues. So we got through that. Congratulations. Completes our review of chapter 1. Some of it's quite easy, some of it's a bit obscure. So we're moving on. And we are now in chapter 2. Different graphic, chapter 2 graphic. Sadhana. They'll comment on chapter 2. In chapter 1, Patanjali gave the general concept that the mental activities are restrained through two things, right? Practice, which is abhyasa, and dispassion, which is vairagya. But he didn't give any specifics for practice. He didn't say you should practice this, and this. No, he didn't do that in chapter 1. He just said practice. Regular practice, frequent practice, dedicated practice. But he still didn't give us any specifics. So now in chapter 2, he's giving the specifics of practice. Verse 1, Kriya Yoga consists of austerity, self-study, and devotion to Ishvara. So this is an important verse, so we're looking at the Sanskrit. Kriya Yoga, austerity is tapas, self-study, swadhyaya, better pronounced swadhyaya. Devotion to Ishvara, Ishvara pranidhana, we talked about that before. Patanjali talks about devotion to Ishvara. In our niyamas, we have puja to Ishvara, Ishvara pujana. A very similar idea. So Kriya Yoga has these three. Tapas, Swadhyaya, and Ishvara Pranidhana. In modern Hindu teachings, Kriya Yoga generally refers to a spiritual path that includes techniques of meditation, particularly those that focus on breathing techniques, pranayama. So maybe you're familiar with that type of Kriya Yoga. You could basically call it a pranayama exercise. Comes from the Babaji tradition. Babaji, Yogi Ramaya, Self-Realization Fellowship, that line of teachers teach Kriya Yoga. Good practice, but it's not what this is. Here, however, the term simply means the yoga of action. Kriya could also be rendered in English as the yoga of religious action. So karma means action in a general sense. Kriya can have the sense of devotional action. So that's how it is in Saiva Siddhanta, right? We have Charya Pada, Kriya Pada. Second Pada is all about worship. So in Saiva Siddhanta, Kriya is used as devotional action, same as it is here. Tapas, austerity, may bring divine images of yogis wintering in Himalayan caves or bathing in the freezing waters of the Ganga, which are pretty freezing. So tapas does include such intense practices. It also includes moderate disciplines that can be done by all. A simple form of tapas is sacrifice. Sacrifice is the act of giving up a cherished possession, be it money, time, or a treasured item. So, for example, skipping a meal and then giving the money you saved to a charity, that would be tapas. There's an actual giving up of something. It's different than charity, dana. You're giving money. In dana, charity, you're giving money to a charity, but you didn't have to give up anything. Tapas is taking it a step further. You're actually denying yourself something. Svadhyaya involves both the study of sacred texts and introspection. It implies a process of learning about one's own true nature through study of important spiritual texts, reflection, and meditation. Chosen texts may vary depending on the cultural and religious context and might include works like the Vedas, Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, Yoga Sutras, and other scriptures that lead to greater understanding of oneself and the universe. Commentators sometimes include, as an element of self-study, swadhyaya, japa, recitation of the sacred syllable Om, and other mantras. Ishvara Pranidhana is total surrender to God. Though yoga is taught today tends to altogether leave out the concept of the personal God, Ishvara, the Yoga Sutras give a central place of importance to worship and devotion to Ishvara. Then we have Gurudeva's quote. External worship, bhakti yoga, is taught first on the spiritual path because it produces a softened, a mellow heart. It is to waste the Guru's time to give training in meditation and contemplation before the heart has been softened through bhakti yoga. The patient Guru will wait till this has happened within the devotee. Otherwise, any accomplishment attained through intense Raja Yoga practices will not be sustained. And the problems that arise within the devotee's subconscious mind, should he be taught Raja Yoga before the proper preparation has been mastered, will go back on the Guru. So we don't want that. Oh, it's interesting. The practices we give for our 10-minute spiritual workout, we have chanting Om, offering rice, scriptural study, are all within this idea of Kriya Yoga. So didn't realize it when we wrote it up, but we're basically asking everyone to start by practicing Kriya Yoga. I thought that was interesting. So that's enough of Patanjali. Second topic, paths to Shiva. Who is Lord Ganesha? How would you answer that question? Lord Ganesha is the elephant-faced patron of art and science, the lord of obstacles and guardian of Dharma. So that's an important name to comment on. Obstacles. Perhaps in answering who is Lord Ganesha, you said he's the remover of obstacles. That's a common phrase, but that's not his name. He's the lord of obstacles, meaning he can also place them in your path. So he doesn't just remove obstacles, he can place them in your path if you're going the wrong direction. The image I like to use is the mother with a young child. she's the lord of obstacles to the child. And quite often, she's placing obstacles in the child's path rather than removing them. As the child is going to do something where he or she could hurt him or herself. So that's just like Ganesha. Mother to a young child is like Ganesha to Ganapati's devotees. First son of Shiva, that's a good answer. He is worshipped before any of the other gods, including Shiva himself. That's an excellent answer as well. His Vahana, or mount, is Mushika, the mouse, symbol of this god's ability to access all places in the mind. Gurudeva taught, wherever his devotees are, in the home, the factories, the offices, the hospitals, the marketplace, orbiting in space or tilling the soil on the farm, Lord Ganesha is ever there. We worship him before beginning a new project, taking an exam, or making a major decision, such as where to go to college. When we feel the need for Ganesha's blessings, we attend puja to him in the temple or pray to him at our home shrine. How can we contact Lord Ganesha? This is Gurudeva's suggestion. You could also say, how does Gurudeva suggest we contact Lord Ganesha? We are not yet able to send him an email. We'll see. 50 years from now, maybe we can. You can get to know him as a good friend. To contact him, hold his elephant image in your mind, look into his eyes, speak your questions and problems into his right ear. When you are finished, open your eyes. Ganesha's guidance will come in a subtle, indirect manner, meaning you won't hear an answer. He's not going to talk to you unless you're a great rishi. Over the next several days, watch for signs, perhaps a suggestion or even a casual comment from a teacher, parent, or friend that suddenly makes it clear what you should do. So very subtle, indirect answer. The Shakti of Lord Ganesha is a gentle, soothing force. Even a subtle encounter has the power to bring us into the secure consciousness of the Muladhara chakra, the fourth center of memory where Ganesha resides. This blessing keeps us above the 7 lower chakras, home of the base emotions such as jealousy, fear, and anger. So that's a lam, for those of you who don't read Devanagari. So lam is the symbol for Lambodara, and the Muladhara chakra has the bija mantra of lam. You'll hear priests chanting that, lam. Lord Shiva, the supreme god, created Lord Ganesha, Murugan, and all the other Hindu gods. They are souls like us, but of a higher evolution, destined to enjoy union with him. They are very old and mature souls, mighty beings who live in the Shiva Loka. Though commonly depicted as male or female, they are actually beyond gender. Always important to explain that to someone who doesn't understand it. Good way to explain it is to make reference to the person you're talking to and to yourself. Okay, well, we reincarnate, right? We believe in reincarnation. Are we always a male or a female? No, we can be either one. So that's kind of proof that the soul is neither male nor female because it can reside in a male or female body. So if the soul isn't male or female, certainly the gods aren't male or female. That's my way of answering them. And questions to hindu.org. This again is a question 2016 retreat for the Hindu Students Association of Texas. Has some good questions from this group. In a discussion about Dharma and duties, it became apparent that the idea that our duties change according to our age was not at all a familiar concept to the group. Never heard of it. Your duties aren't constant during your whole life. They change according to your age. What? So if you were trying to explain that concept, what short answer would you give? How do our duties change according to our age? The answer relates to the idea of the stages of life. The Sanskrit term for stage of life is ashrama dharma. So, ashrama or ashram, when we hear it, we normally think of a place, physical place, where a guru lives, a yoga teacher lives, and teaches. So that's one of its meanings, but in its most general sense, it means a resting place. So in the age division of life, there were 4 distinct resting places. Ashrama Dharma is a natural expression and maturing of the body, mind, and emotions through 4 progressive stages. So that's important. It's not just the body, it's also the mind and emotions mature as we get older. Not just the body we can see, but the mind and emotions, assuming the person continues to develop him or herself, continues to mature. So a 70-year-old is much more mature than a 20-year-old in mind and emotions. This idea was developed millennia ago and detailed in scriptures known as Dharma Shastras to highlight the fact that our Dharma, our duty, changes and evolves as we mature from youth to adulthood, senior years, and old age. And Gurudeva. Gurudeva considered that in modern times, each ashrama is a 24-year period, applying equally to men and women as follows. Brahmacharya student, birth to age 24, learning, pursuing secular and religious studies. So that's the time of learning. And that one's easy because that's what most everyone does is they study, at least up to age 18 or 20. And it's not just secular, it's also supposed to be religious studies. Grahasta, householder, age 24 to 48, raising a family, fulfilling a career or profession, serving the community. So a very busy time, giving birth and raising young children. Keeps you very, very busy. At the same time, fulfilling a career or profession, super busy. And also supposed to be providing some service to the community. Vanaprastha, elder advisor, age 48 to 72, offering one's experience to help others. So Vanaprastha literally means a forest dweller, but as you know from my previous talks, that doesn't work. Try and dwell in a forest in Singapore and they'll put you in jail. Call you a vagrant. So there's no support system for that in most countries. Even in India, the support is fairly limited to certain areas of the country where you can still get support. So instead of going to the forest, Gurudeva advises, use your extra time to help others. Serve on the boards of NGOs, temples, so forth. Give your experience, your maturity back to younger people. And sannyasa, retiree, age 72, drawing from society and devoting more time to religious practices. So this is the sannyasa ashrama, not to be confused with the sannyasa diksha and formal sannyas. This is informal sannyas. And basically starts when people are no longer working for money. Sometimes people just work for the fun of it. If they have their own business, they don't really know what else to do with their time. But as long as you're not working for money, you're in the sannyasa ashrama, which basically age 72 is getting closer to that retirement age. It's moving up in countries from 55 to 60, and US I think is up to 67 or 68 at this point. So the story, you've heard the story, but some of you haven't. It's interesting. When I meet with families in the Guru Peedam, doesn't always happen. Sometimes different families will say the same thing within a short period of time, almost word for word. And then I say, oh, this is the question I should answer. It seems to be in the Hindu mind. So this was a question that came in for 1 year was, Swami, I'm just turned age 72. I'm about to turn age 72. What should I do differently? And they're hoping I won't say they should give up their 3 Mercedes and their retirement account and live in an ashram. They don't want to hear that. So, and they're not ready for that. So what I say is, well, whatever spiritual practices you've been doing, do them twice as long. So if you've been doing half an hour a day puja, do an hour a day puja. If you've been going on pilgrimage once a year and you can afford it, go on pilgrimage twice a year. So that's a simple change, as we just put more time into the practices we're already familiar with, because age 72 is not a good time to start a new habit pattern. We do better just to continue what we've already learned and do more of it. And then once you've doubled it, you could increase it even further. So we have a few shishya that put in, I think one of them puts in about 3 hours a day in his vigil, and then another one throughout the day probably adds up to 8 hours. 8 hours of sadhana every day. Imagine that. Very serious. But that's what he wants to do, and he has the free time to do it. So basically putting more time into the sadhanas you're already doing is an excellent way of living the sannyasa ashrama. Thank you very much. Om